Welcome to the Outnumbered Podcast with Joey and Alleigh, where we talk about our life with our kids, our jobs, our family, marriage, relationships, things like that. This is episode 2. If you're interested in our story and how we got from being high school sweethearts to outnumbered by 3 boys in our house, you can check out episode 1. But here's episode 2, where we're going to talk about
where we are now, our jobs, and our crazy life at home with our 3 boys.
Let's talk about how we got here. So last time we talked about kind of our relationship mostly in the first episode, but we didn't really talk about our careers because we both work and have 3 kids.
We both try to work. You work.
You try to work. That's true. You're at home trying to work with the 3 kids. Yes. Yeah. Trying to work is a good way of putting it. Yeah. So want me to go first?
Sure. Yeah.
So my goal was always to work with kids. Even when I was in high school, I liked working with kids that were younger than me. I would volunteer at youth camps and things like that in the summer. And so I knew I wanted to be that. So naturally I thought I'll be a teacher. And I kind of had that year off, as we talked about, between high school and college, because I joined the military. Right. But I was just in the military part-time. So when I started going to school, I decided I wanted to be a history teacher. I think mostly I wanted to be a teacher and then coach, and history was the only subject I liked in school and did okay at in school. So I thought, I guess I'll be a history teacher. In hindsight, I should have been a PE teacher. Yeah, probably. That would have been way more fun. But
I was going to say meal prep, not meal prep.
Lesson planning.
Lesson planning,
yes. And grading. Like year 3 of teaching, I was like, why didn't I become a PE teacher? Okay. Yeah, anyway, so I became a history teacher. So I went to school to do that. Student teaching my senior year, which was the first year of our marriage. I was student teaching, and even student teaching, I really liked it. And I kind of dialed in. I knew I wanted to be an 8th grade history teacher, and I was going to take any job that I could get, obviously. But that was kind of my goal. I really liked middle school, liked the curriculum for 8th grade history. And so that's what I wanted to do. And that's the first job I got, was as an 8th grade history teacher. And that was tough. I don't know. Would you say that was a tough year, first year teaching?
Just an adjustment. I think it was just kind of like figuring it out and then getting to a point where, like, this isn't working. You know, we just need to adjust a little bit.
With, what do you mean?
Like, you would just bring home stuff and do grading or whatever. Yeah. I mean, you had a lot to do. Like, it made sense, but also I was like, so are you ever going to stop doing that?
Yeah, no, I remember that really clearly. We were in our apartment, and I think it was because when I was student teaching, we were married, and I was just always doing stuff at home because I was still a student in college. So I had college assignments, but I was also teaching full time. So I had teaching stuff that I was doing. And so then I just was used to that lifestyle. And then my first job, I just kept doing the same thing. And I remember I was sitting at the table one night, like working on my lesson for the next day. And you just looked at me and you're like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you were like, you shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Like you work all day, like don't bring it home because.
And then it kind of clicked, and I was like,
oh,
that's
paid enough for this.
A good point. So I tried my best to leave it at work.
You were creating like a curriculum because you had nothing. I mean, it was year 1. There was definitely a lot to do, but also like I didn't see you all day, and then I was like, you were home, but I still didn't see you.
True. I got better at that.
Yes, very quickly, because I think I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. And as I was teaching, I was always looking for coaching opportunities. I loved coaching. And at middle school is fun because you can kind of coach a lot of sports. So at that first school, I coached wrestling at the high school and the middle school, and then also cross country, which was fun because that was my first time coaching girls in a sport, because I was used to just coaching like boys wrestling. Yeah. And I realized that middle school girls respond differly to middle school boys. And I was just like, they were running, and I was like, come on, girl. And they looked at me like I was nuts. And I was like, oh, sorry, you do your thing.
That's funny.
So we spent 2 years in that school. Yeah. And then made the decision. And my first year at that school, I was like, man, I'm going to teach at this school for 30 years. Yeah. I remember thinking that. I was like, this is a great school. I liked the people I worked with. Good area. Had a good relationship with the principal. But they didn't pay a whole lot. Yeah. And so after year 2, we didn't have our second yet. So we had 1 kid, but things were starting to get tight, and we're like, I don't know if this is sustainable.
I think they had always been tight. We just didn't realize. Yeah. Because we didn't pay attention to that.
So I think we kind of realized that this isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for jobs in other districts.
Yeah.
And Lord was awesome. I got the first one I applied for in a better district. And
thanks to your pump up song or what? Didn't you have a specific interview pump up song?
I did. I don't remember what it was, but I did. But that was like the first round. My first job, I interviewed a bunch. But then the second time, it was a lot easier because I had experience.
Sure.
But that was great. So that was like spring break of my second year of teaching. And so then at the end of that year, I got to go on a trip.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
You do remember that because you were alone with Miles. But I got to go to Boston and New York with 35 eighth graders and 2 other teachers.
The dream.
That was wild. I went because the teacher told me that we would go to a baseball game at Fenway, which is the Red Sox stadium. It's like the oldest baseball stadium. And so I was like, yeah, I'm in. And then we did that on the first day, and then I had to do the rest of it. But that was fun. So that was like kind of my last experience with that first school. Then transitioned, and then I got another 8th grade history job in the second school. So I was really excited about that because I got to teach the same thing. It wasn't like I was starting over. And then at that school, I had lots of opportunities to coach. I think I was coaching 4 sports.
Yeah, I was also coaching volleyball.
At the time? Yeah, because we did a little scrimmage between our schools.
Oh, yeah. Did we set that up?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I coached soccer, cross country, wrestling, and track. But my first year at that school was 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And so it was good. It was a different experience at that school, but again, really liked my principal, liked the people I worked with, was planning on doing it for a long time.
Much closer to our house.
Probably there. It was closer to our house.
Yeah.
I had just finished my master's degree, and so that bumped me up in pay a little bit, and the 4 coaching opportunities were great, and so we definitely felt like we were in a better spot.
Yeah.
And then spring of 2020 happened, and that was wild because I was the week before spring break. We just finished wrestling season. They canceled school for a week, and then the next week was spring break. So I said, we're going to close for 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. And so we tried to they want us to like give the kids I'm teaching 8th grade. Okay. So they want us to give kids assignments. I think we did. I don't think any of them did anything. After spring break, they said, no, we're still going to be closed.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a week by week thing. And then eventually they were like, we're not coming back this year. And so that was a weird time for us. I don't know.
That was weird.
What do you remember about that?
I just remember it being like so back and forth and like kind of chaotic, just in that like if any kids like were sick, I don't even think
No, that was the next year. So this is just that first year when we were just closed.
Oh, you said 2020 and then I was thinking 2020, but
spring of 2020. So
yeah, it was a little crazy.
And I was driving you guys crazy, I think, because I was home all the time.
It was just kind of hard. I think because our house was so small, just like getting into a routine of like doing our own thing, and then you would just like pop upstairs.
Yeah, because I wasn't teaching that year. I wasn't teaching the kids live, so they would have us just like post assignments daily.
Yeah, and
then respond to emails from kids and stuff. And so I didn't have a ton to do. So I would like do some stuff and then come up, and I thought I was being helpful and like, hey.
No, and
but I was probably just disrupting whatever.
Just then I felt like we were just like upstairs waiting for you to like come up.
I was probably just disrupting whatever rhythms. And that was just, I mean, there was nothing really to do during that time, you know? So, weird. And we had, how old was Miles? He was almost 2. And so, yeah, we were just, I don't know. And everyone remembers
weird.
That was a weird time.
Yeah, kind of threw us out of our.
But we made it through that. And again, at that point, I was still thinking like teaching, we'll figure it out. And then that summer was weird because you were hearing a lot of stuff from the district about what fall's gonna look like in 2020, and like so many back and forth things, or we're gonna start in person, we're not gonna start in person, we're gonna do this, that, blah, blah. And so I think we did the first 2 weeks not in person, and I remember just teaching in my empty classroom from my laptop, and all the kids were at home. So that was my 4th year of teaching, and the first day of school is when you meet all the kids, and I'm meeting them all through a computer screen, which was super weird. And so that's how we started the year. And then when we came back, I forget all the words that they used, but it was like asynchronous or something. I don't know. So I had half the class in my room and half the class at home. And I had to teach them all at the same time. And then they would switch. So like some kids came Monday, Wednesday, some kids came Tuesday, Thursday. And then I don't remember what we did on Fridays, but maybe it rotated.
I think that was the beginning of burnout.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was so hard, and it just completely changed my style of teaching and how I taught. And
when you're basically possibly creating 2 lesson plans, and I think it was also
And the kids at home were getting gypped. Things would change
so quick, and yeah.
I felt like the kids at home were getting gypped because they're not really getting the full experience, and then everybody's wearing masks, and so I don't know if every teacher did this, but it was middle school, so we had like 55-minute class periods, but we would go outside at least once a class period so that everyone could take off their masks.
Otherwise, have you ever even seen their face?
No, like, and some kids wouldn't take their masks off outside, and so I didn't really know what they look like.
Yeah, it was hard to connect.
It was weird. But the worst part about that school year, not the worst part, I guess the worst part for us financially, I should say, is that they said no coaching middle school. So high school was allowed to play sports, but they said middle school's not doing sports.
And we relied on that heavily.
Yeah, because that was 4 sports that I was coaching, and so it was a good chunk of money. And at the beginning of the year, they're like, middle schoolers don't need to do sports.
Yeah.
We're like, what? And so that's when I think we were starting to think, man, like, what else could I do? Because this isn't, I'm not really liking it. And all the trying to teach with a mask on and trying to make sure kids keep their masks on. And like, I'm feeling I'm not really teaching anymore because I'm all this other stuff. And then the other thing they would do that falls like the quarantine stuff. So like if a kid came to school sick, like they would quarantine the kids and teachers that they were around.
So is that the year then that it would be like, oh, you're like Sunday night you'd get an email and it was like, oh, you're in class or you're not.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, now I need to adjust my entire lesson plan.
Yeah. Because there was one week where it was like, they sent me home that week because I was exposed to a kid who maybe had COVID, even though they had a mask on and I had a mask. Anyway, so then I would go home. And then I didn't find out till like Sunday night if I was even allowed to go to school on Monday.
It was just chaotic.
Even though I wasn't sick. So
it was kind of exhausting.
So you have all these extra stuff going on, and then I'm making less money because we took a pay cut and I couldn't coach. Which the school is great. They tried to make up some like intramural sports stuff after school that made us a little extra money. I think
it was out of their control, I think.
It wasn't the same. Yeah. So that fall, we started thinking in my military job that I did one weekend a month and during the summer, how it worked is I worked with a lot of civilian government employees in the same job. I was military, but they were civilian. We worked the same job, though. And so I was up there one time. I don't know if it was a drill weekend or something, but I was just talking to, and then all of a sudden I had this thought, which I had never had in like 8 or 9 years. This had never occurred to me, and it just hit me, and it was like, what if I worked up there full time as a civilian? I think it was totally from the Lord because I never considered that before. I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to do the military thing part-time. And it just hit me. And so the guy I was working with was a civilian. And so I was like, how much you guys get paid? Yeah. And I just started asking some questions. And I remember coming home. Do you remember that when I do.
I remember you came home and you were like, here's the salary. And I'm like, cool, I'm in. Like that was it. Like,
yeah, sure. And it ended up being more than what we initially thought. But I don't know. I kind of felt like an easy decision at first. I think just because it was necessary.
We're just sick. I think sick and tired of just constantly feeling so tight. But
it took forever for that. So the idea popped in May or in that fall of 2020, and I knew a lot of those people really well because I'd worked with them for 9 years. But and so I started asking questions. They're like, yeah, of course we'd hire you. We need somebody. And that paperwork in the government took forever. So I didn't get hired until February.
Right.
And so I left teaching that February.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the school year, and we were still doing the weird asynchronous thing and half the kids and all that. And so,
which I think you felt bad doing that, but also.
But I remember, and I'll back up a little bit. I remember praying into that decision because I was going back and forth like, man, am I really supposed to leave teaching? Because I thought I was going to be teaching for 30 years. And I remember thinking like, well, I could go back, when things aren't as weird with teaching. But it's funny, and there'll probably be a couple examples of this in this story, but because usually if I'm like praying into something, I'll put on worship music. And there's always a song that speaks to me. So I remember, I think it was that You Make Me Brave song. And when I was considering it, because it was a hard decision to leave teaching. And then I didn't realize how hard it was until the day that I left. Do you remember that day?
I do.
I was like a Friday. It was my last day in February, and I'd put in 2 weeks.
Do you have tears in your eyes now? Now?
No. But I always call you on my way home from work. Any job that I've had, I always call you on my way home. But that day I didn't. I think I even picked up groceries. I think you had me pick up groceries on my way home. Yeah.
That's funny.
From like the pickup or whatever. And so I was doing that, but I didn't call you because I knew I was going to start crying if I called you. And it was a good day. Like the kids were awesome. They like threw me a party. They like signed this huge poster for me, which they should. I was leaving in the middle of the school year. I mean, it'd be nice to me. And then So it was a good day, but then I got home and I just like lost it, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You definitely cried. Yeah.
And I didn't even know why. So then for like 2 months, I didn't know why I was having such a hard time with it because I didn't mind the other job. Like it wasn't teaching and it wasn't kids.
Sure.
But it was a job that I didn't hate. I had done it for 9 years. I felt like I was pretty good at it. It's called airfield management. So I did flight plans. I did checks and inspections of the runway and pavement. Right. And I got to be outside on an airfield with like jets flying over. It was pretty cool. But I was commuting there, but like that wasn't even that bad yet. It was like 2 months in and I was just really struggling with, I was like, man, I left my dream job. Like I left the career I was going to do for 30 years. Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And then we got together with some random friends. It was really my brother's friend. Like, I don't even know if we've had them over since. This was like a couple years ago. And we've talked about that. The Lord does it all the time. We'll just plop random people in our lives to say just something to us. And but I was talking to him about it, and he was like, well, dude, if your identity is wrapped up in anything other than Christ and that thing goes away, it'll feel like a part of you died. And I was like, oh, that's it. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm dealing with. And I guess I knew that, but just for him to word it that way really clicked. And so I was like, man, my identity was wrapped up in being a teacher. Like, I know I didn't make a lot of money. I know it's not a glamorous job, but like
I was did it well and you loved it.
Proud of being a teacher. Like I liked telling people that I was a teacher. I was like, yeah, like this is what I do. You liked
the response too. Of
because people are like, why would you teach middle school? Yeah. And so I liked it. And I thought I was going to do it for a long time. And I liked history. I liked teaching history. And so... And I wasn't doing any of that. And I was doing something more important though, right? I changed jobs to provide for my family. I knew the Lord was leading me in that direction. That was the confusing thing too, is because we had peace about it. But I'm like, well, now, Lord, I'm doing something where I'm not using any of my gifts or passions. Yeah. And so that was really hard. But when he said that, it got a little bit better. And then I had another friend at the time I was talking to a lot about it as well. And he kept saying, well, you know, if your gift is teaching, it doesn't mean you have to be a teacher. Yeah. You know, like the Lord can do lots of things with your gifts. It does, you know, anyone who's gifted in teaching doesn't have to be a teacher, which I know now. But at the time I was like, well, I'm not really teaching in this airfield management job either. Yeah.
And I think looking back on that, it's like you could, you know, pinpoint ways that like that job, maybe it wasn't a long season, but like it opened the door for us to be able to buy our current house because we were outgrowing our last house, but like could not afford anything.
Tell that story. That's a cool story.
Which part?
Getting the house. Because that was right when I started that job.
Yeah, you'd maybe been in there like a month, 2 months maybe. And our last house was 3 bedrooms, but it was like a split level. So upstairs, there were only 2 bedrooms.
And you were pregnant?
Yes, and we were...
with
our second baby was due that fall. It was probably early... like January, maybe February. Or was it more like March?
In the spring, yeah.
Okay, spring of that year. And, we just felt like we were outgrowing our house. Like we had 1 bedroom that was like upstairs besides ours, and it was tiny, really tiny. Felt hard to host people because we had such a tiny little kitchen and dining area. We had like 4 chairs. So it was just hard to host people. But in order to
get a new house, we had to sell our current house.
Yes. So we had the income to buy a
contingent
a bigger house. But yeah, the contingent offer was tricky. But if we didn't sell our house, or if we sold our house first, then we could have ended up like
there's kind of 2 options. You can try to put in a contingent offer like, hey, we want to buy your house, but we have to sell ours first, which most market was hot. Most people are not going to take that kind of offer. So the other option, which our realtor was telling us to do, was sell your house first. Yeah. And then look for a house.
Which just made me real nervous.
So then you only have a small window of time. Yeah. And so it felt risky. So So that was our plan. And then.
Yeah. So then we hadn't even started looking. We were like working hard on, we got a storage unit to like just declutter and
then you were on Facebook.
Yeah. We were like painting, touching up, whatever. But the neighborhood that my parents live in, that I grew up in, I was still on their Facebook page, and I got on it for some reason, or I just saw it on Facebook that somebody that I knew had posted that they were selling their house in that neighborhood.
You played volleyball with his daughter, right?
Yeah. And I was like, wait, I know him.
And it was like in our price range.
It was in our price range.
Floor plan
Great
we wanted.
Plan. Yeah, 3 bedrooms upstairs. In my parents' neighborhood, which has a pool.
So we asked a realtor,
super nice. We were like,
are we crazy
can we go
try?
see that? So we went and saw it, and I think I had asked him like, hey, we would love to see your house, but we would have a contingent offer. Like, would you consider that? And I think he said in the right like situation,
he said
might.
Normally no, but I know you guys.
That's what he said. Yeah.
So go for it.
So we were like, okay, well, we'll at least try it. So we went and saw the house. It was the only house we saw. Mm-hmm. We didn't even look. I mean, we could have looked around, but we didn't. And put in an offer, and then I think there were like one or two other offers,
yeah,
and
better than ours.
But also it was so either something was wrong with the house, which we haven't figured that out yet, or
hopefully not.
But like no, there wasn't like a ton of offers. Like we just assumed there would be so many offers because the market was kind of at that point, and there wasn't. So then it was like either something was wrong with the house or it was just supposed to be ours.
But there was a cash offer higher than ours. That he was going to, so he accepted our offer and then he messaged you. Yes. And you remember that? And he explained, he's like, I just want to explain why I picked your offer.
Yeah. He was like, we got a cash offer. I was tempted to accept it, but he said that he felt like God woke him up at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and was just like, you need to pick them.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that crazy?
So anyway, cool. If you have a contingent offer, do it.
No, and so that was really cool because it was just, I think, a confirmation that we were doing the right stuff with changing jobs, because right after that and then the Lord shows up like that and tells this guy to pick our offer, and it was a crazy story. And so the house has been a huge blessing for us, and been there for almost 3 years now. So we made that transition. So I'm doing this job. I'm commuting to Denver, which is tough.
That burnt out real
really
quick.
Early morning. So I had to get up at 3:30 in the morning, and then it was 10-hour shifts. So I'd get up to Denver by 5:30. Wouldn't get off shift till close to 4, and so then I wouldn't get home until 5:30 p.m. So it was like 12-hour days away from the house, and then I'd work a night shift every week. Yeah. Which wasn't your favorite thing.
No, I can't stand that.
Yeah. And during this time period, though, because I wasn't doing where I felt like my giftings and passions, where I started volunteering with the youth group at the church we've been attending for a couple years.
Right.
And so I got plugged in there, started serving volunteer basis.
Yeah.
I wasn't that consistent just because the job was tough with the shift work and night shifts, and I felt like I was tired all the time. But I loved that, and it was super life-giving for me, and just felt like we had loved our church, and we didn't serve a whole lot, so I felt like there was a way where I could serve in the church also, we've been visiting.
Yeah, hang out with kids.
Which I love doing. And so that was fun. So I did that for about a year while I was in that job, and then we had our second, and then in the fall of 21, second kid, and then still doing the job. But I remember that during that time I was home on paternity leave, kind of. I was home whatever days I had saved up for a little bit, and I feel like at that time we were talking a lot about like what's next.
Yeah, I feel like we were like, just don't go back.
Yeah.
Please don't go back.
And we knew it was not going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
It was good for us financially in the moment, but it wasn't what we were passionate about. And so, you might hear our baby a few times. He's in the corner.
Yeah, he's a little noisy sometimes.
He's noisy.
But
he's happy.
Cute.
He's just
happy
noisy.
And cute.
Yeah, he's loud. He has to be loud. We have 3 kids.
It's true.
Yeah, I just remember having a lot of conversations when we were waiting for Adler to be born, and then before I went back to work about like what's next. You know, I think it was during that time I was praying hard about what was next, and I think I was feeling frustrated, and I remember saying to you like, I'm praying, I'm not getting anything. Well, you try.
You were like, you try, and then you left.
Yeah.
And I don't remember even like at that time, I don't even remember feeling like I intentionally was like, sure, I'll pray about it. I mean, not that I wasn't willing, but I don't remember like starting to pray about it. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, sure. And then I felt just like this clear, like, I don't know. It didn't make sense at the time. At the time, it felt like I was, like God was telling me that like I was, like the next season was like me. Like I needed to be financially providing in the next season. And
not that you were providing,
that. No, but the way I received it was like totally like, I don't know what that means. Like I'm not doing anything like really that would do
I remember
that.
thinking like, sweet, I get to be a stay-at-home dad.
No,
we weren't sure exactly what it meant.
I remember thinking like, wait, but like how? But then I just felt like this, like, well, you have everything you need.
You're gonna have a role,
and
a bigger role. Is what we.
well, that's what we got to eventually when it like came together and we figured it out. But yeah, at the time I was just like, what does that mean? Like I had a blog, but like it did not make anywhere near enough money, like $50 a month. I don't know. So yeah. And then I just felt like this clear, like, well, you have everything you need. Cause I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm not prepared. I'm not set up for that. I don't know where that would even come from. And then I want to say just like a few weeks later, I don't know the timing, I got a referral from somebody with a...
So hold on. So it was quite a bit later. So that was... Because that was like right when Adler was born. And then and then I ended up going back to work. And then we just kind of kept doing what we were doing. But it was getting tougher with the commute and now having 2 kids and a newborn and the night shifts. And, night shift, like if I'm not there, newborns are needy at night. And so you're doing that by yourself. And then... And then we...
kind of do it by
for
myself
a while,
anyway,
like I was applying... for all sorts of stuff. Going into that next spring, I was applying for, I don't know, I didn't feel like I should go back into teaching, but I was applying for, like there was this one job I really wanted. It was like an online education technology company, and I'd be like writing curriculum for their videos. Yeah. And I was really excited about it. And I think I did a couple interviews with them and then didn't get the job.
Remote working sounded fun to us.
Working from home. Yeah.
We're like, we'll move to the mountains.
Yeah. And I just felt crushed that I didn't get that. And then I was we were exploring all sorts of options.
We were willing to do pretty much anything.
And then ultimately it came down to like the job was just too much, commuting was too much. Our dog tragically died
on a night shift.
And you had to deal with all of that, and we were like, I just
too much.
Can't be stuck in Denver anymore. Like we can't do this. And so then I remember we were at this event at our church that they do kind of at the beginning of the new year, and another song was playing. In the line of the song was "You Silence Fear," and so I remember we had just been talking about like, well, maybe we just need to quit the job. We just need to quit. Yeah. I was like, but I've got 2 kids.
But it was always like, Wi-Fi. But how do we pay bills or how do we do this?
Nothing lined up, and so I was like, Lord, if this is what we're supposed to do, you need to silence my fear, because like I'm afraid to quit when I have to support my family somehow. And He did. I just felt an overwhelming sense of peace in that moment, and. I think we talked to some friends at that event too, and they were kind of encouraging us in the same direction. So, but then I think we still sat on it for like a month, and then finally we're like, no, we've had peace, we've got it work, like we feel like we need to do this. So we quit, nothing lined up, just put in my 2 weeks, said I'm done. That would have been spring of 22. And then soon after that, Lord opened the door to interview to be the youth pastor at church in the youth group that I had been volunteering at. And that was just, that was so cool because...
What month was that? It was like
I don't know, it was all that spring, of 22. And that was cool because that was not really something I ever thought that of pursuing, being in full-time ministry. Sure. And in hindsight, though, it's really cool because I didn't even realize how the Lord had been preparing me for it through my time in the military and leadership skills I picked up there, and then my time in teaching. I'm still teaching. I can teach the Bible now, which is way more fun than teaching history. It's still teaching history, but it's different. And
not a textbook.
And then just the relationship I can have with students as a youth pastor. But anyways, so Lord opened that door, and I was like, man, I guess this is the direction we're going to go. And He was kind of, I think, turning our hearts both in that direction. I think we were definitely on the same page for it. And then when crunch time happened, had the interview, had to make the decision. Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because then that's when the job stuff happened for you.
Okay, my timeline was fuzzy, but
you're good.
Yeah, we were like, definitely that's the job. Like we both felt good about it.
But again, we were unsure about the numbers, financial piece, because it was definitely less than I was making in my fancy.
It would have worked
job.
In our last house, but then we were making more, so we bought a little bit bigger house, and then all of a sudden it wouldn't have worked in that house. So that was kind of when that word that I got kind of came into play, where I think it was May, beginning of May. I still had no clue what I was supposed to be doing to make money. Like I don't know. It was kind of on the back burner. But we knew if I'm going to take this job, that I have to do something.
You need to do something.
Yeah. And so I remember I got a referral from somebody that we know that was like, hey,
random person.
Are you taking design jobs? I have someone moving here and they want their whole house furnished before they get here and they need someone to do it. And I want to send them your info. And I was like, okay, sure. So they literally reached out, and it was like this big job.
Big job. You learned a lot.
Like months of covering like our financial gap, and I learned a lot.
And then because of that referral, which happened literally like right when I accepted the job.
Yes.
you decided to
I was
head
like,
in that direction.
I guess I'll pursue design.
Start a business. Yeah.
Which has always been something I've been interested in. Yeah. That's what my blog is about. But I never thought I didn't think I wanted to work with clients.
But you're trained, certification, you've always been interested. Since you were in middle school, you're pushing furniture around in your room?
Probably like 7, yeah. And watching HGTV, the whole deal. But yeah, it was just funny timing because it was literally like, okay, sure. And I feel like I was just kind of like thrown into like, well, this is your business now. And it's been super great since. It's definitely looked different depending on the season just because I have 3 children.
3 children, yeah. And
like right now, I feel like I'm in an adjustment period where I don't really know how I'm supposed to find time except when like you're home, but just the juggle of like, that's family time.
Yeah, there's a lot to balance for sure.
Like obviously there's Saturdays, but I don't want to spend my whole Saturday working. Yeah. You know?
And looking back, because we're coming up on 2 years now of that transition from me into full-time, really us into full-time ministry, because you do it with me, and then you with your design business. I think it's cool how you haven't really done any advertising.
No, none.
Or promotion.
0. And
these jobs,
word of mouth.
God just keeps giving you jobs. But I like how he's giving them to you, not like too many at once.
Yeah.
Like literally they kind of come in one at a time.
I feel like I'll get to this point where I'm like, oh, nothing. I have nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah.
And so I feel like he hasn't given us like too much where we can't make it work, but it's enough. Financially it's enough, and it's also enough where we can mirror our schedules. Yeah. And give you time. Figure it out. And with the way my schedule is, and my off days and off pockets, we were able to work in giving you time. But then, as you mentioned, there is that struggle of where do we find family time, relaxing time, you work time, me work time. Yeah. And that's the balance of working parents and kids,
Yeah. But it's kind of nice too, because it's like I'm not working every day 9 to 5. Like in the fall and in winter, like Thanksgiving and Christmas-ish time this last year, I had 2 huge jobs that we were then able to like tuck a bunch away.
We'll talk about the timing of that, because that was 2 rough. Huge jobs, and then you were pregnant with our 3rd.
Yeah, I was a little tired.
But talk about how the timing worked out.
Yeah, I had 2 jobs, and the timing, they were supposed to be separate. The one was supposed to be like early November, that we would be like in the house, like working on the house. Our 3rd baby was due November 1st. Someone asked me that last night, and I was like, was he due the 1st?
No. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway,
he was a week late. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Actually, when I said originally I could do it, I was like, yeah, no problem. Great. And then later I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm literally due then. Yeah. And so anyway, I kept checking in like, oh, are we still on time? Are we still on time? And they were like, yep, we're still on time. And I'm thinking like, okay, but also kind of was hoping it would be super delayed and the construction would be like super pushed back just for the timing. So anyway, it kind of was, which worked out.
And the reason, you should explain the reason why you're worried about that is because like we've learned with the first 2 kids how important.
Oh, I don't want to be out there a week postpartum.
Exactly. How important. Just
even like a month, I'm not doing that. Yeah. So, but I had to get the job done. I mean, I had to do it. So the first job, I was like super pregnant, like almost due. That one was supposed to be done way earlier. And then this other one.
You got that one done before the baby.
We did, barely, yeah. Well, I think it was wrapping up as I was like in bed a few days after birth.
But your part was kind of hands off. Yeah.
Yeah. So my part, I was able to send someone thankfully to like finish it up for me. But yeah. And then the next one was like 3 weeks postpartum, which worked out better than it would have. But also we were in the hospital with our 3rd, who had like a respiratory type congestion type virus. And I was 3 weeks postpartum or so. I'm trying to think. Christmas was right there. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. Obviously a big blessing financially, but also then it was nice to be able to tuck that away and then like not have to do anything for months because, our financial gap that we're always
a little bit of a break
is covered.
You've had a few jobs
a few smaller jobs, but like, again, I don't know how many I could really take on at this point. So it's, I have one right now that's just a little more low key, which is good. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's been an adjustment for sure, but definitely a huge blessing and still figuring it out. I don't really know how to get it all done. We don't get it all done. Our house is a mess.
Yeah, we have boys that try to destroy everything.
But I think, through that, though, we've learned a lot in terms of, like, how to budget better and how to, like...
Learned a lot. I was just thinking, how do you even recap
track
all this?
Of details, yeah.
And I think one cool thing is we're both doing jobs that we didn't expect.
Yeah,
to be in, that we weren't necessarily aiming towards. And so, and I think going back to that identity thing that I had to realize when I left teaching was that if your identity is in Christ, if your identity is rooted in Christ, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And I love to tell students that who you are is more important than what you're doing. Yeah. And I'm careful when I tell students that, because I'm like, you should be doing something. You should be working hard. I'm not saying you don't have to do anything. You should be doing something. But never forget who you are and who you are as a child of God. Yeah. And so what I realized through that transition is like, and I didn't even talk about that, but that year that I had in that military setting where I wasn't teaching, I wasn't working with kids, the Lord grew me big time. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be bold in my faith. I'm going to talk to my coworkers. I'm going to make an impact as long as I'm here. And God opened up so many cool doors for me to like share my faith with coworkers in ways that I never. And I'd known these people for almost 10 years. Right. And I'm sitting there talking to them, and you know that house story that you told of how God woke. Like I told everybody that story that way, and I'm like, isn't that crazy? God got us this house, and I was just bold in a new way. And so because I had realized like no, like I'm a child of God. That's my identity, and it doesn't matter what my job is. I'm gonna do it for His glory. Yeah. And when you do that, when we do that, you know, together, that's kind of the direction we're moving. It's like then the Lord opened up jobs for us to do things that we love and we're good at, and it's providing for our family, and we like it, and we never would have if we had controls, we wouldn't have set it up this way.
No, yeah, you know? For sure. And I think it also has like put us both on a track of growth in like you and just what you shared, but also like growth in teaching. Like this is a different caliber of teaching than in a classroom, but also like for me, like knowing how to have clear boundaries and expectations with clients, which is something I've not always been good at. To just be clear and also like stand up and not let people just kind of not push me around, but just like kind of push me in whatever direction. You know, I just always struggled to like put my foot down and be like, no, that's not how I do it. And I've just learned a lot in regards to that, like just how a project should run, just all sorts of things like that. I feel like we've both grown a lot in
it's true
inside of those newer or those paths even that we've taken.
And we've gotten to work with each other a lot, which is really cool too. Yeah. Opposed to different careers where like you you serve with me at youth group. You're super involved with the decisions we make for our youth group, and then I get to help you on my off days with your jobs, and sometimes I'll bring the kids and I'll bring boxes to you or lunch or whatever, and so we get to kind of help each other out in our careers, which is really cool. And like when I was in the military, you never came to my work or teaching. So it's different, and so this is cool where we get to be around each other a lot, even on work days. You know, when we can, and bring the kids and kids get to see what we do. You know, they know what you do, they know what I do, and like Lord's, as you were saying, ways He's grown you, like ways He's grown me too. Like I've gotten to preach on a Sunday morning, which is something that scared the snot out of me 2 years ago.
I would never want to do. We're growing in different ways.
Want to do, and so but when you submit and you know where your identity is and you submit to God and His plan, He opens up really cool doors and opportunities, and He won't just open them and push you through them. Like He prepares you, and that's the other thing is He puts people in your circle to help you in that regards too. Sure. You know, we've both had mentors and people pop up out of nowhere to help us through these seasons and transitions and what we're doing.
Yeah, and just our parents have been super making it work.
Oh yeah, too. I mean, my mom's the reason that you are able to come to youth group every Wednesday. Yeah. She makes us dinner and watches our older kids while you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to be here if it wasn't like for a consistent every Wednesday it's covered. Yeah. It would be a little stressful trying to find a babysitter every single Wednesday. So that's been huge. But currently you are coaching wrestling.
Yeah. We're in the thick of it right now. It's okay, and that's how ministry works. Where it's like sometimes you have just really busy seasons where we've kind of piled on some big events.
Yeah, well, and you kind of missed that like coaching sport aspect. So we're like, I think we can handle it.
Right. I had not coached wrestling, which is something I really enjoy and a passion of mine. I hadn't since I left teaching.
Yeah.
So it'd been a couple years, and then the Lord opened up multiple opportunities to coach this year. And so we felt like we should take one, and then,
and this one felt like the lower key one. Does that make sense?
But it just, and we're learning a lot right now about, oh man, we need to do some things with our schedule and space out events and make sure we're aware of what we're saying yes to and committing to, and which is good. And it's, a couple more weeks here in the busyness of it. And that's kind of how ministry works and ebbs and flows. And so,
but we could do a better job next year of just spacing things out a little bit. We're still
learning. Yeah. It's good. Always be teachable, always be willing to grow, write things down so you remember.
My mom always says, assess and adjust.
Assess and adjust. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at, I feel like.
Yeah. And so day to day, our life is a little crazy and loud and hard to have. That's why this podcast is really fun, because we can have
sit here talk
a mostly uninterrupted conversation. Our baby is making noises in the corner, but usually we can't talk for 45 minutes without being interrupted by at least 20 times by a kid. So that's fun. We should keep doing this for that reason. But so just, I don't know, anything else to add from just kind of where we're at, what life looks like now? And
I mean, I don't feel like we really have it all figured out.
Nope.
At the moment.
That's okay.
People keep asking, like, how is it with 3 kids? And I'm like, up until like this week, I feel like it's like, oh yeah, it's not really a big deal. And then our 2-year-old has become a full-blown 2-year-old and is into absolutely everything. And I'm
his
just
hands
like,
in the toilet yesterday.
What is happening?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think always my answer maybe is different this week than it was last week.
I feel like my answer is different every day.
Probably true.
But it's fun. It's fun talking back and seeing how we ended up here and just the Lord's fingerprints on it all.
Yeah.
And so that would just be my encouragement is.
Yeah. And also just like how, like in the moment, you might not see where it's going. Like it makes no sense.
Oh, there was so many
even like
moments.
Quitting your guard job, or the civilian job.
Yeah.
We were like, so what was the point?
Yeah.
But then looking back, it's like, oh, this and that and this and that. And like it makes sense looking back. But it's like, first of all, maybe not everything is supposed to be forever. There's seasons of things, there's seasons of teaching that, is doing something specific, but it was never supposed to be forever.
Yep.
There's 1 year of that job.
Yeah.
And it wasn't supposed to be forever. It was just almost like a holding place until, because I don't know that we would have pursued ministry anywhere. Like this job, if we would have been searching for like our next meaningful ministry or teaching job at the time, this wouldn't have been available. Mm-hmm. So that placeholder of the guard was like essential.
And I grew a lot in that time. And but there, like you said,
that got us to the timeline of when this job would have been available.
Yeah. There's so many moments where you can't see the full picture, like you said. And it's frustrating and confusing.
Doesn't make sense.
But man, if you just continue to pray and trust and follow the Lord's peace, then you do have these moments down the road where you're like, oh man, that's so cool. And I'm thankful for that period, even though at the time I was like frustrated by it. And so, that's really cool. But we despite the chaos, love where we're at. Yeah. Even the busy times. And and I think we love where we're at because we know it's where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, we would like a little more sleep, but otherwise.
A little more sleep, yeah. It's coming. Baby's sleeping pretty good right now.
He does sleep pretty good. I sleep pretty good. Yeah, you're the one that has to get up.
The other ones have been getting up early. It's all right. Everything's a phase, a season, and we love it. So so we're thankful, and just final encouragement would just be to know your identity, root it in Christ, submit to His plan, and you'll never know what doors and opportunities the Lord will open up for you. So thank you for watching episode 2 of the Outnumbered podcast. Again, if you missed episode 1, that's our story. We go into our younger days as teenagers and all that. So make sure you check that out. But thanks for watching episode 2. We'll see you guys next time.